Alright y'all, so if you haven't watched my last video where I complained about Rain's connection, where it was absolutely crap, watch it because it'll help you understand why I complained, and this is how I solved that problem. So as you can see on the video title, I was not able to connect and I had a connection problem with my new Rain 5G, and it just didn't have any connection, no 4G, no 5G or anything at all, right? So I did what any sane person would think of doing. I went to the Rain website and I clicked on the support and logged a complaint, and after that I got many emails letting me know that help is on the way, but it never came. 2 days later I still had no help from Rain whatsoever. And then I reached out to them on Twitter, right? And on Twitter they didn't reply to me until many days later as well. So when they finally replied to me saying, "Hi, we're here to help and we apologize for the delay upon investigation, blah blah blah," they only replied when everything was already sorted. So then I went to Twitter and complained there, and they told me to send them a DM, and you can see I sent them a DM with my email address and why I wasn't connected and all of that, and they only replied to me about 2 days later or 3 days later when I've already solved the problem. I also went on Facebook, and as you can see here, I laid a complaint and I told them please send someone to replace my SIM because I had complained and I figured it was the SIM card, and nobody came. So Facebook also proved to be absolutely useless, just like Twitter. So I was supposed to have 5G connection, but I had no connection at all. They couldn't help me on Twitter, they couldn't help me on Facebook, they couldn't help me on their Rain official site, and so I googled where people complained, and it turns out on my broadband, that is where they finally helped me. Now I gotta give it up to the support team on my broadband. They are way more responsive than any other Rain support team anywhere else. So this is where I got helped, guys, and if you need help solving your Rain problem, I recommend you open an account with my broadband and then lay your complaint there. At least the person there works okay, at least for now. I don't know if they're gonna fire him like 2 days from now because he's doing his job and they don't like that. So while you can, maybe try it, but it's not guaranteed. I really can't guarantee that it will work. So let me show you where my problem was, and I think the problem was when I first opened my Rain SIM card on the 5G, because I used to use the 4G. It was alternating between 4G and 5G, and that means that my network worked on both 5G, 3G and 4G because I had all those connections. And if you look at my notifications, you can even see that Rain told me your 5G now has automatic 4G fallback, which means if there is no 5G network or the 5G network around me are not strong enough, it will fall back to the nearest 4G connection if that happens to be better than the 5G, which means, well, ultimately that means that 4G actually works. But for some reason, about a few days or a month after I got my SIM card, my 4G, I think Rain stopped making my 4G working, and my 4G was completely not working anymore, and now my SIM card is 5G only. So I'm saying they fixed it, but I'm not really happy with the fact that I can't fall back on 4G. My router can only work on 5G, so the router has to be 5G enabled. If I wanted to take the SIM card, put it in my phone has to be 5G enabled as well. If I put this SIM card in any device that is not 5G enabled, it's not gonna work. They didn't figure this out, I figured this out, because I told them it was a SIM problem, and it turns out it's not a SIM problem because the technician came and then he logged on to my Rain router, just like so. So what happens was the first technician changed my network setting to 4G only because he said that was a better network, right? So first of all, in order to change your network settings on the MC888 ZTE router, you have to turn off the router. You can't change any settings unless it's off. And once your router is off, you can then go into settings here. Once you're in settings, you can go into network selection and then change the network selection. So my setting was initially on 5G, 4G, 3G, and that's why it had no connection, right? So when it went in here, it said no network or connection status, nothing whatsoever. And then he went in here and went into network selection and then changed it to 4G only, right? So he went and he said you have better connection on 4G only, so use 4G. So if you apply that, then this is gonna connect to 4G only. But what it didn't know was that the SIM card is now only 5G enabled. So in this case, you can see here that I have absolutely no signal strength and no connection status, absolutely nothing. And I was like this for 3 days. I kept on reaching out to them. I had to buy additional data in order to connect to the internet, and you know, it took them another 2 days for them to come. So when the next technician came in, he said, okay, go into settings again, and then he went into network selection and he chose 5G South Africa, and he said choose 5G South Africa only. This means that it's gonna choose the 5G network in South Africa. So you are in South Africa right now. If you are not in South Africa, then you can use the non-South African 5G, but you're not gonna need that because you're not outside of the country. So choose 5G in South Africa and it'll prioritize the nearest 5G tower around you. So if you click apply, you can see right now that I have no signal and no connection status. It's like both crosses. There's nothing there. Once you click on apply, you can now see that it's changing because this is 5G enabled. So now I have signal strength. I have 3 bars now. And if I go back, right, because I changed the connection selection to 5G South Africa. Now if you go back and turn it on, so now I'm going to switch on the connection, then you can see that I have connection. So that was the only way that my problem was solved. There is pros and cons to this on my SIM card only. I don't know if this is going to happen to everyone, but particularly my problem was this SIM card does not connect to 4G network, so it will only connect to 5G network. That is it. So I always have to have it in my router, or if I'm gonna put it in a phone, the phone has to be 5G enabled and the APN has to be RAIN. So that was it. That was the problem that was, you know, like rocket science for them to figure out, because it took days for them to come here and figure this out. But I have stable connection now, and let's just check a speed test so you can see how fast the speed is. I'm on the RAIN network, that is the standard, so it's throttled to 30 megabits per second, and you know it's going to be some kind of average between or more or less. It's never going to be more, but you can see right now that my connection at this very moment is 16.27 megabits per second download, and my upload, guys, has always been absolutely rubbish. Right now it's 3.48, 3.50. It's going like 3.5 megabits per second. So now it's 3.26 megabits per second. That's actually good compared to the crap that I get on the usual, because I did many speed tests with my router positioned in different places, and you can see here this is supposed to be it downstairs and this is upstairs, and you can see that on my first test I get 30 megabits per second download and 0.79 upload. I mean, what is that? Second test, it's 2.9 megabits per second and absolutely nothing. And then on the third test, 0, fail on both ends, and I had to refresh. And then I did the fourth test and I got 4.68 megabits per second and 0.34 megabits per second. On the fifth test, when my router is downstairs, so I guess the connection is sort of bad down here, is 32.83 megabits per second, and the upload is 0.73 megabits per second. Now if you look at this, it means I get an average of 14.12 megabits per second download and an upload speed of 0.37 megabits per second. That's absolutely rubbish. It's rubbish. You know, how am I gonna upload these videos to complain to you when this is, maybe it's because maybe they figured out that I'm gonna complain on YouTube. That's why. I think that's why they didn't want to make it work. But yeah, so I moved that same router and put it upstairs, and immediately you can see that my download speed is 26.91 on the first test. Second test is 16.16 and then 17.1, then it went up to 28.64 and then 33.98 megabits per second. That is the download speed. So on average that is 24.56 megabits per second. That is about 10 megabits per second faster than when it was downstairs. So I'm gonna leave it up there. The upload speed though, on the first test my upload speed was 3.87, and then second test was 1.7, third test was 2.13, fourth test 2.84, fifth test was 5.26. That gives me an average of 3.16 megabits per second upload. It's still rubbish, but it's 3 megabits per second faster than when it was downstairs, so I'm also gonna keep it upstairs. So yeah, that's pretty much it. To recap, the reason why my router wasn't working was because my SIM card is now only 5G enabled, so it doesn't connect to 4G, it doesn't connect to 3G, it doesn't connect to GPRS or all of that shebang. Only 5G. And when there's no 5G network, unfortunately I don't have any network, at least with Rain anyway. I still use Vodacom when I don't have connection with Rain, because I've never really struggled with connection when it came to Vodacom. What I don't like about Vodacom is the pricing. Their pricing on data sucks. Alright, I hope this helped you. If you have the same problem, change your settings to 5G only and maybe that'll solve your problem. Go into your router settings, log in, and then change the setting to 5G only. Network selection, change that to 5G only. Maybe that'll solve your problem, maybe it won't, I don't know, but it's worth giving it a try. Alright, till next time, peace.